Again, welcome everyone. I'm happy and glad to see you all today. And someone mentioned a couple of people live in London and they've joined us. It's got to be pretty late. I grew up in England, so I'm kind of jealous. Wish I was there. Although I love America, it's my new home, but that's nice. Yeah. And in fact, England is playing in the European soccer final right now against Italy. I was watching the game and it's gone to overtime, so I'm recording it. We'll see, may the best man win, as the British always say. Today we're gonna cover song number 6. And I usually talk for 50 minutes to 1 hour. So I'll talk about song 6 for about 20 to 30 minutes. Then I'd like to introduce you, all of you, which I've done in the past in my classes with my students. I will introduce you to an argument from design. This is an argument we use in philosophy, one argument to prove that prove the existence of God. And so it's important when we study the Gathas, Zertshت was the first philosopher and he left his message with us, but all of us as Zartushtis, we are really all philosophers and we follow philosophy, the truth, and as philosophy has evolved through other nations and other individuals, through the Greeks and then the Europeans up to this modern day, there are some philosophical issues that philosophers have come across. So as Zoroastrians, we need to be aware of these findings in philosophy to see how would a Zartushti answer these questions or some of these challenges in philosophy. For example, there's 3 arguments. One is called the cosmological argument, one is called the ontological argument, and one is called the argument from design. That these have been been neglected, I should say, in terms of some of us Zoroastrians, because if someone approaches us and says, hey, what is the view of Zertshت in terms of the cosmological argument, ontological, or the argument from design, we need to have some answers for them. Furthermore, there's the 2 arguments or issues in terms of morality. One is morality relative or objective, and Nietzsche has an argument called the cultural relativity. So we also need to be familiar with these issues and arguments. Again, so if someone challenges us, if someone said, hey, Shahrooz, what do Zoroastrians believe, or what does Zoroaster states in terms of, or what is his view in terms of cultural relativity? And then there's another philosopher called Nagel, who has written a book, War and Massacre, that there are 2 moral ideas or ethical ideas. One is called deontology, one is called utilitarianism. Again, if someone asks me, hey, Shahrooz, if I was to give you a case test, where would Zoroaster fall within this? So I was, through my studies, I became familiarized with these issues and these arguments. I had to study them and write papers, and I have reflected on them quite a bit as a Zoroastrian. But I'll start without wasting more time with song number 6 of Ahunavaiti Gatha. Ahunavaiti Gatha consists of 7 songs. The most profound songs in the Ahunavaiti Gatha is Song 1 and 2, which we have covered, which is the introduction of Zoroaster as Ahu and as Ratu, chosen by the people, by Gaush Orvan, the settled people, the civilized people, as our leader and our teacher and our guide. And then song number 3 is very profound because that's where he introduces to us his doctrine, his essential doctrine of good and evil and free will. So he states in song number 3, we have free will and we have a good mind, vohu mana, manishanik, that can discern or judge between good and evil, asha and duruj, and as Zartushtis, we're supposed to negate duruj, and through our own free will, we're supposed to choose asha and go through the path of righteousness to improve ourselves, our community, and reach hawar batat, perfection and immortality. That's kind of becomes our obligation, and it gives life meaning. So what is the meaning of life? And that's the Zoroastrian perspective in terms of meaning of life. And then we have song 4, then song number 5 of Ahunavaiti Gatha is again very profound because it appears that Zoroaster is talking about social justice, social science, and politics, where he negates his the order of his time. He rejects the priesthood clan of his time within his tribe and also the political leaders. So these 2 groups are called the Karpans and the Kavis, and he attacks them and claims that the religious authority, they're abusing human beings, and their beliefs is superstitious and not scientific. And the political leaders are kind of in cahoots with them, and they also oppress people. They're warlords, and they don't want to settle and become civilized and try to develop the world or the city or the settlement. And here's song number 6 is Devotion to Duty, which is the title. Remember, these songs don't have a title. So the title that I'm reading here, Devotion to Duty, this is song number 6, consists of 14 stanzas. This title has been given by Dr. Jafari to this song. However, Shahrooz Ash has not given titles to his songs. And I'll read the summary of the gist of this song, and this is not my own writing or my own claim. I'm going to read the summary that Dr. Jafari has written in his translation of the Gathas. He states the entire song is devoted to Zarathushta's divine mission of communicating with God only to gain guidance to spread the universal message and to serve God and humanity. He rose to eliminate the ills that plagued every unit of human society. He rose to guide humanity on the righteous path of the highest wisdom. Years of untiring preaching made his voice heard among the people who formed the nucleus of his MAGA. That's M-A-G-A, which is, these are the Morans, the order of the Magi's, which is known in the West. And these were kind of his assembly and his original followers and his so-called, to say, Anjuman or church in English. The great fellowship of his companions. Now he wanted it to go beyond this circle, to the settled people of the land. He wanted more strength and more enlightenment for his expanding mission. He wanted courage that comes from supreme serenity, God Almighty, the sublime strength that comes with progressive thinking, spenta menu, the invigorating energy that comes with righteous conduct, the happiness that blessed a good mind, and he wanted all these to strengthen his conceptions. In return for all these favors, he made a surprising offer. He dedicated to God his life, mind, words, and deeds, his communion, and the very power and the endurance he was asking. That is why he broke into a powerful prayer, a prayer for a divine vision that could grant him communion with God. He wanted his revelational prayers, rather the dedication of his humble service, to manifest itself among his companions. He prayed for the success of his mission, and we know he was granted this wish. Let us join Ashur Zarathustra and pray for enlightenment through righteousness, Asha, and good mind, Bohumana. Let us also dedicate ourselves to serve the great mission. Let us pass on his divine message beyond our still small circle to the humanity at large. Let us be enlightened only to enlighten others. So this is Dr. Jafari's summary of Song 6 that kind of tells us what Ashur Zarathustra is trying to express. Now, if I go to Professor Charupawala's Gatha, there are some key words here that we can reflect on to see kind of what's profound about this song. In this song 6, in verse number 1, there is a word by the name of justice, which is, according to Charupawala, Shaya Othna, he has translated into justice. And Professor Keykhosro Irani mentions Ashur Zaratushta's philosophy of ethics really in the context of social justice. And talking to him and having read some of his papers, and I had the privilege of doing an interview with him, the summary is that in a just society, no one should prosper at the expense of someone's injury. I think this is very short and simple, that we should not prosper while causing harm or injury to someone else. We need to prosper as we make sure that others prosper with us. That's the true definition of justice and being prosperous. So in this verse 1, in full accord with law shall all men act, the law that forms the basis of all life, with the strictest justice shall the Ratu judge, whether it be the true man or the false. Against the false in him he shall with care weigh all the truth that with it has been mixed. So our Ratu and Ahu is Ashur Zarathustra, and the teacher, the supreme teacher being Ashur Zarathustra, does mention the word justice, and we know he's the Vastar, which is the guardian. So the guardian of the settled people, any civilization, is responsible to make sure that society has the utmost justice within it. So this is very enlightening in this stanza number 1. Then we go here to, I'll skip stanza verse number 2. I'll go to verse number 3, where there's a Huadato, which some has translated this into a marriage of next kin, but Dr. Jafari and Mr. Charupawala has translated this word into self-reliant. And this is again a key word, which means self-reliance. And also within this stanza number 3, there's another key word, which is Eryamana or area man. Now this word has been translated into friend or into companion. And there's another key word here, which is verezenio, which is co-workers. So we know when we look at the word self-reliant, co-worker, and a friend of Ahura. So we say in the Zoroastrian faith that we are not the slaves of God. For example, in some religions, they say, hey, for example, in Arabic, we have the word abd. Abd means, some translated into a slave, in fact. So we are not slaves of God. We are not supposed to be oppressed by God. We are friends of God. In the Zoroastrian theology or philosophy, we are co-workers. So this is where this word Aryaman comes in, which we are friend of Ahura. And I'll read this section of verse 3. Who's unto the righteous attached just, whether as self-reliant he be known, whether co-worker named or a friend, addressed and whose fosters zealously all life, he both assure himself a place within the realm of Asha of Vohumana. So a friend of Ahura, which is Aryaman or Aryamena, friend of Ahura, makes us self-reliant. So as Zartushtis are supposed to be self-reliant, to depend upon ourselves, be strong and have strength, to have the independence, to stand on our own feet, and to help each other as Zoroastrians. One philosophy behind Sedre Pushi is Hamazuri. When we tie that koshti around our waist, we essentially unite with other Zartushtis in thoughts, words, and deeds to be co-workers with Ahura Mazda to progress the world to the point of wholeness or perfection through this evolution. So this is our source as to why we are friends of God and co-workers with God and not God's slaves or anything beyond that. So this is very enlightening and it's very a refreshing idea. Then another thing that some scholars have claimed that Zartusht is a Zotar. Zotar, some claim there were 3 priesthood classes within Zoroastrianism. And one of these categories was a Zotar. And Dr. Jafari rejected this notion that this is some structure and that the word Zotar means an invoker. So it doesn't mean a certain category or class of the priesthood. Some claim Zotar is the priest that kept the fire. It was the keeper of the fire. However, both Professor Tarupavala and Dr. Jafari have translated Zotar into an invoker and not a priest. I took a couple of classes on Zoroastrianism at UCLA, and one of the professors said that Zartush was a priest and a Zotar. Dr. Jafari claims that the only time Zoroaster has put a name on himself or identity, it's mantra, which means a thought provoker. So we believe that Zoroaster is a mantra, is a thought provoker, and the word Zotar within this song 6.6 means an invoker, someone who invokes you, and it does not mean the priesthood class. So it goes, as thy true worshipper in Asha firm, with all my heart, the Spirit holiest for his processing grace do I invoke. I will fulfill the guardianship, Vastar. I will fulfill the guardianship he planned. So, Ahura Mazda, I would ask of thee a vision of thyself and speech with thee. So it's kind of a meditation, invoking, and a form of communication with his own mind, trying to connect with what is wise and what is Asha, and being in accordance with Bohumana, the good mind. So that's another interesting point. Then in song 6.8, we see a word in song 6.8, Yasnem. This Yasnem, the root comes from Yasna, and it has Dr. Charupavala has translated this Yasnem into worship. Now in Persian, we don't really have a word for worship, and this word is somewhat point of contention. We have a word called parastesh, and the word in modern Persian, parastesh, comes from nursing. In other words, in the modern Persian language, the word for a nurse is a parastar. A parastar is someone who guards something, someone who nurses something, and it's quite different word from the English word of worship. Perhaps a better word for worship in Persian would be setayesh. But this word yasna, I think it's closer to the concept of celebration. Today in modern Persian, yas or jash, when we say jash or jashin, means to celebrate. So we celebrate wisdom, we celebrate wise people, as opposed to using this English word of worship. Although worship means someone who is praiseworthy of something, so the word celebrate, praise, and worship do have certain similarities to something that is grand, such as a deity or something of a higher value, that we use these words to try and describe that value. So again, this is where you see this word. It says Yasan and Mazda, and the word Mazda comes afterwards. So you can either claim, hey, we're worshippers of Mazda, wisdom, which is true, or we celebrate and praise Mazda or wisdom. And basically, I'm going to fast forward now. We're 24 minutes into this, into song 6.13. Then I'll come out of this song. We'll see this word, da'ina. Again, we believe Ashur Zertshت has claimed the name of his philosophy or his Gathas is Da'ina Van Goghi, which means the good vision. Some have claimed Da'ina means good conscience, so Van Goghi means good. The word we're interested in is this Da'ina. What does this Da'ina mean? Some have translated into religion, some have translated into vision, and some have translated into conscience. And specifically a conscience that is tied to morality, to where we don't have guilt in Zoroastrianism, but in Persian we have a modern word called vojdan, which means don't you have a conscience, don't you have a vojdan in terms of good and evil, to where if you do something bad, you should have the conscience to not do it. And do you in Christianity is like, do you feel guilty about that? Which we don't have. But here, what's interesting that when you look at this word da'ina, I will read from Professor Charupavala's Gatha. He describes Barth, who was one of the translators. takes this to be the same as the second principle of man as enumerated in Yasan 26.4. The word also means religion. And this is the traditional sense assigned to this word here. Mills both follows this, but from its difficulty, Barth is often confused while dealing with this word in various passages. In this translation, Barth retains the word daenas, for he thinks it is a technical term indicating the sum total of those characteristics of a human being which bear upon his religion and his soul. Barth also suggests here that the translation inner self or spiritual ego, I personally think this is the most suitable rendering. So Tarupavala uses this word as inner self. So we got another word, another translation. So it's conscience, religion, inner self. This is this word dana or vision. Now, da'ina in the Persian language and etymology of the word, Dr. Jafari always claimed that the word deed in modern Persian, deed means to see. So Shahrooz, ino didi, did you see this? He claims that da'ina means deed or vision. So when Zoroaster says Daina Vangowi, he's referring to the good vision, which is his philosophy, his belief, and what he's teaching us. And also, he has used the word good conscience. Now, in Persian, we have a word called din. Din is known to be translated into religion. But also Dr. Jafari taught me that there's an Arabic word called Dainu. And there's the Persian word called Din. Now, Din and Dainu have two different meanings. So if a Persian comes up to me and uses the word Din, I will question him, what do you mean by the word Din? Are you referring to the Arabic word Dainu, which means commandment? The Arabic word Dainu means a commandment that comes from God to a prophet, then down to us. But Din in Persian means vision. So it's again important so that we don't mix up this word da'ena or Din between the Arabic word and the Persian word. So that's very important because again, his message is called Daina Vangowi. And what is this Daina? It's essentially the core of your inner self. It is your vision to the external world. It is your vision towards this ethical world and this ethical life that we live in. So now we leave that song alone. We've come here through 6 songs, and we need to see that if someone asks me, Shahrooz, then this is a challenge for all of us, and we don't need to discuss this too much. I just want to share this with you, then I'll share a couple of arguments with you later as we go through these Gatha sessions. There are 6 arguments we all need to be familiar with. If someone says Shahrooz is Ahura Mazda, when you mean your God, whoever your deity, whatever your deity is, or your God, is this God the creator of existence or the cosmos? Now we know within the Semitic belief that their God, whether it's Yahweh, whether it's Allah, or whether it's the Christian God, they believe that this being created the universe. And in order for them to defend that there is a God that created the universe, they have come up with this argument, and it's also known as the argument of the Watchmaker. So we want to see whether Ahura Mazda is this watchmaker or not, and what are the challenges with this argument in terms of our deity. Now, how would we respond to this? So here's how the argument goes, that human artifacts are products of intelligent design. The universe is relatively similar to a human artifact. This form of argument is called an analogy. So they're trying to use a comparison and an analogy as to why God exists and God has created the universe. So we are comparing human artifacts to the universe. In other words, if humans make a watch, we're comparing the watch to the universe. Just like human art, they want to make the same comparison with the universe. It is an analogy approach. Then the third line of this argument states the universe is a product of intelligent design. If you expect human artifacts require intelligent design, like a watch, then it should follow that the universe requires intelligent design. This is if we accept human artifacts to be similar to the universe. So this is the creation kind of story, or intelligent design. The universe is by far more vast and elaborate than any possible human artifact. One can claim that the universe is larger than human artifacts. Therefore, the intelligence that went into creating the universe is also larger by comparison. So this is that super intellect that Dr. Jafari has translated Ahura Mazda into super intellect essence. He puts these three words together to define Ahura Mazda, super intellect essence. So the intelligent design is another word that even Christians use, and they want to teach the children this in schools, which it got banned. The elementary schools are no longer can teach this. Now they have rolled over to evolution. They teach kids or children in school the theory of evolution, but many religious people in America would like children to also learn about intelligent design, which is this argument from design. That's another word for it. So then from here, you reach, they conclude line 5, there is a vastly superior intelligent designer. And this is the analogy they use. They said, hey, suppose we're walking on a beach, on a sandy beach, and we come across a watch. Now, we know when we walk on the beach, we see sand, we see water, we see seashell, and those appear to us to have come about and be natural objects. But if I run across a watch walking on a beach, the first thing that comes to our head or our mind is that some intelligent being designed this. Did this not come around by accident? Because it's quite different than the seashell you see or the rocks you see or the water you see. So to our mind, it also makes sense because we know we designed this, we had the intelligence to design this, and did this not evolve accidentally? So they say when we look at the universe in totality, the universe is so much more complex than this watch. Therefore, a larger intelligence designed it, created it, and it did not come around by accident. Just like this watch, some intelligence had to go into this. This universe is a super, super mega watch. Therefore, not only did intelligence go into this, the intelligence that went into it is far more superior and greater than the human intelligence. So this is their argument they make. So when we reach here, philosophers, one of them being David Hume, an English philosopher, tries to put a hole in this argument, okay? And this is what he says. Hume believes the analogy in the above argument is weak because he claims premise number 2 is false. Now, what was premise number 2? The universe is relatively similar to a human artifact. So he says, look, you're trying to say this watch is similar to the universe, that premise number 2. Hume negates that. He said, Hume believes the analogy in the argument is weak because he claims premise number 2 is false, and that the universe does not look like a design. Some of it may be similar to a design, however, not the whole. Hume said that there is a lot of chaos in the universe. So he's using this chaos to negate this, and what appears to us as chaos, you cannot claim that it is all in order. So he's using chaos versus order to negate that element of design. It has some elements of design, but not complete elements of design. Then he continues with his critique of this argument, which is a theological argument. If you want to make God into a watchmaker, he says, here's something you cannot prove. And he gives us 4 things we cannot prove. So he's criticizing this. Number 1, that the designer is perfect. The universe does not seem to be a perfect design. He suggests that perhaps God might think it is perfect, but we will not infer to it as perfect the way it seems and appears to us. So if there is a being that created this place and to its mind, it thinks this place is perfect, when we look at this place with our mind, we do not think this place is perfect. How would you know what perfect is? And one cannot compare this to any other universe because one has never been to another universe. Then part 2, the designer is infinite. You cannot conclude by looking at this design and say that he could have created another universe better than this. So he must be a finite God with limitation and not infinite. Therefore, God cannot be infinite. So God is finite and God is not perfect. Number 3, the designer is unitary. What does that mean? Man builds a house or a ship by a committee. Requires many people, not just one person. A large group of people. It is not one person, but a group of designers. So when we build and design an airplane or a ship or a house, it requires number of human beings. And you are saying that one person made this universe, you would have to think it is more than one super intelligent being. Because this universe is so massive, it had to be more than one being that created this universe. So it's not one God. There had to be numerous gods, numerous super intellects that designed this universe. So there goes monotheism, right? For us. And then number 4, the designer or designers is or are still in existence. That's another challenge. So even if there was a designer or designers, how do we know they're still in existence? Because by our own analogy we use as the watchmaker, the designers die and they don't last. So that's the problem. So if I'm a designer of this watch, the designer dies, this super intellect, whether it's one or numerous, that designer is going to die. That's an attribute of the designer. They die. If you want to use human artifacts as an analogy, then you are limiting yourself to human qualities. So this analogy we're using, we're going to limit the creator or God to our own immortality and attributes, etc. So this is one argument for the existence of God, and we see that it does have issues with it. Then Hume writes a revised argument of this, that there are extremely complex things in the universe. There is no natural explanation for the complexity. As to the best explanation, the existence some living or dead, finite, imperfect designer is made at least somewhat possible. So he's going to reduce this God to some living or dead, finite, not infinite, imperfect, not perfect. That might be possible. So as a Zoroastrian, we have this challenge as to how do we define Ahura Mazda now? So if Ahura Mazda created this universe, is Ahura Mazda finite, imperfect, dead? How do we define our God? Now, if this argument is usually written to challenge the Christian world, because these philosophers were encountering the Christian God. There are ways that we can define Ahura Mazda to kind of get out of this, and I'll explain one briefly to you. Professor Irani and Dr. Jafari understood this challenge, and I understand it. So their way of going around this is that, well, the universe is imperfect. We accept that, but it's evolving and the process has not been completed. That's one way of getting out of this. So it will reach perfection one day, it will get there one day, and that's why we are co-workers of Ahura Mazda. Our role within this is to take this universe and take it to that perfect stage. So we kind of accept, in a way, we do negate this and we accept what Hume is saying, but through the theory of evolution, the project is not finished yet. So Dr. Jafari claims that one day this evolution will reach Haworvatat, which is one of the attributes of Ahura Mazda. So you can claim, hey, this creation, the work is not finished yet. That's why you see this chaos. That's why you see this imperfection that David Hume is talking about. And within time, we will get there. Now, Professor Irani also acknowledges that Ahura Mazda is the creator. But when he came to actualize his creation, he had the idea of Asha, which is perfect, ideal, within its mind. So there's a being somewhere that within its mind, before there was anything physical or tangible, the idea of Asha. Then Ahura Mazda went to actualize Asha into the tangible world. Okay, so Ahura Mazda went to create this universe that is physical, made out of stardust, atoms, and molecules. During this actualization process, a vector, he uses the word vector, or a force came in that rejects or pushes back Asha. This is where you have this conflict between good and evil. This is where this imperfection that David Hume is mentioning, Professor Irani acknowledges that it exists. This is where you have this conflict between good and evil. And what are we humans supposed to do? Professor Irani leaves Ahura Mazda out of this, although Dr. Jafari claims there is a being, this Ahura Mazda still exists somewhere in the universe, is taking this world towards perfection. The work is not done, so we cannot judge it yet. It's not complete. That's like me building a house or a car, and halfway someone shows up and says, hey, this house is defective. I said, well, I know it is because it hasn't been completed according to my design yet. I'm halfway through it. It requires more time. And Professor Irani claims that us humans that are have this divine gift of Bohumana, it's kind of up to us now to pick up the pieces. Let's say Ahura Mazda is dead and gone out of existence, or the original creator, like Hume mentions, but what is our role here? We can discern between Asha and Duruj. Maybe us being co-workers of Ahura Mazda, we're gonna bear that load now, and we're gonna take this universe to that final point of perfection through evolution. In Persian, the word for perfection or hawar batat is resai. In Arabic is kamel or kamal, but we're not there yet. So this is very interesting, and it's important for us to be aware of this in case someone challenges us or brings this notion up. So you can think for yourself. I told you perspective of the persons that make this religious argument. I gave you the perspective of David Hume, how Dr. Jafari tries to resolve this, and how Professor Irani tries to resolve this. And this is real. So these challenges are real. We cannot say, oh, well, we have the Gatha and it is what it is. It's not. We need to understand this. We need to have an answer for this to satisfy ourselves, to satisfy our own ideas and our own belief. I'm going to leave this. I've been talking for 15 minutes. We'll leave some space, 20, 30 minutes for question and answers. Remember, there's another argument called the cosmological, which I'll cover. There's another argument called the ontological argument. Then there's a couple of arguments that challenges the notion of ethics. What is our notion of ethics when it comes to utilitarianism and deontology, like Nagel presents, and also the notion of cultural, moral cultural relativity that Nietzsche discusses, and what is our position in terms of Zoroastrians when it comes to ethical issues. So there's two ethical arguments we need to dig into, and we will, and there's three arguments for the proof of existence of God. And this was one argument to prove that there is a God and there is a creator. If you guys have any questions or comments to make, please go ahead.
Thank you, Shahrooz John. That was fantastic. We have a question in the chat box regarding Yasna. It says, may it also possibly be referring to actions in line with Mazda? Would Yasna be referring to actions in line with Mazda?
Okay. Yasna basically just means to celebrate or to worship. So if I say, it needs another word to get attached to it. So Yasna could refer to our actions, but I could use the word in a sentence, even in English. I worship evil acts. I celebrate and praise evil acts, or duruj, as opposed to I celebrate, praise, and worship, or parastesh mikonam, righteous acts. So by itself, it means something, but you need to attach it to something. Or I'd worship this glass of water. So you need something to go along with yasna. Now they have said yasna means reverence, but again, what are we revering here? So the word means, to celebrate, praise, or worship, but then you need to attach something to it, some idea to it, in order for it to make sense.
The next question is the word duruj related to the Persian word for lie or untruth?
Yeah, the literal word duruj we still have today in Persian. The language as Ashur Zarathustra spoke is Avestan, which is an Iranian language. Iranian language has gone through 4 phases: Avestan, Old Persian, Middle Persian, and Modern Persian. So it's the oldest form of the Iranian language. And for example, this word has remained out of Avestan. Like when you read Ashamvahu, couple of words, it's still within the Modern Persian language. And yes, duruj means duruk. It literally means lie. And Dr. Jafari has translated that word duruj to lie, specifically a harmful lie. Because again, that can get kind of weird. I can lie, and I could get some good out of that lie. So even though it's a lie, you may say, look, how could a lie be anything good? So if someone knocks on my front door today and it's the Taliban, and I open the door, I say, what do you want? He goes, are there any women in your house? Because we're going to hang him or beat him up because they're women. So I'm going to lie and say, no, there's no women in my house. I'll see you later. And I shut the door. So that's not a lie. So it is a lie. I literally made a false claim. However, the intent behind what I stated was to reduce harm and not increase harm. So Dr. Jafari claims it means lie, and he also leans more towards the word wrong. So when you do something wrong, when you lie and it harms something, a harm comes out of it, that's duruj essentially. Some translated into constructive versus being destructive. So you have a constructive mind or a destructive mind, or some call it the ideal. Opposite of duruj, Asha would be the ideal and duruj would be chaos. So it's this, again, is good and evil. So duruj is evil, and Asha is good. But to answer your question, then the J went out, duruj, because the Arabs don't have a J, they have a Ghe. So it became durugh today, as opposed to duruj. So if someone makes a statement, hey, I went to Disneyland yesterday, when they didn't, I'll tell him the durugh migi, you're lying, you didn't go to Disneyland. So in language today, it literally means the way we use the word lie in English, if you were to construct a sentence.
Thank you, Shahrooz John. There's another question referring to the message, the inner self, and the vision. I'm guessing they mean Diana, but you do the judge of that.
That's the word.
I'm sorry, it continues to say, do they not, to a large extent, align in righteousness by choice for a Zartushti, Asha with choice?
Well, look, in song number 3, the most profound thing I believe in the Zoroastrian religion is free will. Other religions in particular, they don't have it. That idea, the oldest document that we have, that a person claims humans have free will, is Zoroaster. And we know free will is evil's worst enemy. Because when you're free, you can investigate, you can examine, you can discover the lie or evil or duruj. Therefore, you can conquer it. If you don't have free will, the issues Zarathustra had with the priesthood of his time, he claimed that they are liars. And if you're not free to investigate that lie and prove it, then they're not allowing you to prove the lie. So he goes, look, if we let humans be free, they will go seek truth and the lie, right and wrong, and they will eventually, the truth will conquer the lie. Eventually, we believe as Zoroastrians that Asha will conquer Duruj. And in English, we say the truth will ultimately win. But how do you get to that point is by humans having free will. Because if you confine them and not allow them to think, to examine, to experiment, then you're preventing them from discovering the truth that will threaten the power of the leadership. So that's his message is very revolutionary, to where you'll come through to this inner self, your da'ina, your self-realization, by having your free will to discover Asha, and because of your vohumana, you have the capacity to discover it, and as a result, you adopt it, you choose it in order to be ushta and to make a world a better place and to be happy.
Thank you, Shahrooz John. There's another question. It asks, may you please tell us more about super intellect essence, and especially on essence in this translation?
This is again Dr. Jafari's translation. Other scholars have not used that translation, but the Dr. Jafari said, we go back to this argument of design. He goes, hey, Shahrooz, if you made this watch or you made this pen, this universe is so complex, and it is true. We can't even fathom how to create something like this. I mean, our knowledge is so small. Our knowledge is like a grain of sand on the ocean. That's what this argument is saying, that there had to be a being that had a huge knowledge, more than us, more than the human community even put together. We still don't have the knowledge, the science and technology to create a universe similar to this. We don't have all the understanding of its making yet. So that super intellect, if you believe there was a creator, is that being, is that individual. And its essence is this intellect. The essence that it has is this vast knowledge to be able to create this universe and to even create humans. Even today, we cannot create a human. We do it by a natural ability given to us through fertility. But you cannot still up to today create a human or an elephant in a lab. So this being is like, wow, you know, now God knows if there's aliens, there's other intellects beyond us, and how the planets rotate, all the rules of physics, all the mathematics that went into it, all the elements in the universe in terms of the elements in the chemistry. We're just finding this out and learning. So that super intellect is that being that had this knowledge, vast knowledge, way before us, that even created us, supposedly.
Thank you for that answer. If anyone else has a question, okay, I guess more are coming in. Okay, so if anyone else has a question, please go ahead and mute yourself and ask the question.
Shahrooz John, is Karishma here.
Yes, doctor. Karishma, I think, was.
Is it okay to ask a question?
Of course.
Okay. The question is this: the way you explained the super intellect just now, were you actually referring to Ahura Mazda when you were referring to the super intellect and the translation for Ahura Mazda, or are you simply referring to the super intellect, a super intellect? The reason being, when we do Ahura Mazda, we don't necessarily think of it as a being's super intellect, but maybe, and I suppose by choice we can all do it in different ways, but maybe the collective super intellect may not necessarily be a creator.
Mm-hmm.
That's all.
What we're interested in is, our God, did our God create the universe or not? And is there a being that created the universe? So when we say super intellect, we're strictly referring to what Dr. Jafari is talking about, the creator of the universe, not our collective consciousness, not our collective. It's beyond humans. It's before even humans came to existence, because we only came to existence, let's say 1.5 million years ago, according to scientists. So the universe is way older than humans. So they are referring, the Professor Rirvani, Dr. Jafari, to that initial Big Bang. If we then, again, that's a theory. So they are referring to a being outside of us and beyond the humans, that original being that created existence. That's the context we're talking when we're talking about super intellect. Same with the Christians, they're talking about God that created the universe. That's that super intellect that is being argued here in the Watchmaker. So it has nothing to do with us. They're using us humans as a comparison within this argument to prove, hey, yeah, there is something that created us.
I'll leave that argument where it is, because it has some in different contexts it will have different weightage. But I just wanted to put a thought out to you, and that is, if we use a definition of Ahura Mazda by using the word God, so this is now a question, but I don't think we need an answer right now from you. If we use the word Ahura Mazda as Ahura being of life or creator of life, and Mazda being big wisdom, do we need to use the word God from another sense of a definition of another thought process to do this? And do we need a being to have a wisdom?
With the way we are using God within this lecture, we are, or Ahura Mazda, we're using it in terms of the creator. So is Ahura Mazda the creator? Now you can use the word God in Christian faith, and we can ask the same question. Is your deity, let's use the word deity, is your deity the creator? So in this context, there are different contexts we can use the word Ahura Mazda, but within this context, we are using it as the creator. Is our God, our deity, is this being the creator? And if it is, then there are these issues, is it still alive? Is it finite, which we covered? But here we're referring to it as creator.
Thank you.
Welcome.
And we have a comment from Ferdosh. It says, why can we not just accept that the universe is there, and what we can and should do, it popped up, and what we can and should do to make it better, livable for all creations? So I guess just accept it and no philosophy there, Shahrooz.
Yeah. So
that's a way
that
to
is fine.
That's what I like.
Yeah, that is fine, and you can skip that, right? Because you can say, look, I'm not interested. I'm not interested who the creator is. I'm not interested how this thing came about. What I'm interested in right now, here, and moving forward. And that's good. I like that myself. But as you know, we're addressing something different. The discussion, what if someone can, yeah, that's fine. We can say, look, we have no opinion. We're not interested. Or we can say, hey, the take of Dr. Jafari and Professor Rivani is completely wrong. There is another way to address that, like Firdos is saying, that the issue of when in Song 1 and 2, when Ashu Zartosht introduces to us this idea of Ahura Mazda, our deity, he's just saying there's an existence. Ahura means existence, and there is this thing called wisdom in existence. It's a concept. And we'll take that concept, adapt that concept, and move forward with it. So we're not referring to this Ahura Mazda as a being who sat down and created this place. That's not what Ashu Zartosht is saying. He's just saying, I find myself at this moment in time here. There is this thing called wisdom. I see it in existence. I see there is existence. There's no doubt where Descartes proved that I think, therefore I exist. This is not an illusion. So he doesn't think this is an illusion. There is real existence, and there is wisdom within this existence. And when these two come together, that's what I'm talking about. So you could just totally skip, like what Firdos is saying, skip that and just have a total different vision. And I'll add to this, the Christians, since the Middle Ages, believe that this is the classic notion of what human understanding is. They believe that there was a God, and then God had an essence, and then from essence came existence. So you draw 3 arrows. They teach us this. So here you got God first, essence, then existence. So here there's a creator. Then there's another thought, which I like it better. I don't like this creator idea, but if you like it, that is fine, because we ultimately don't know, right? We don't know. We lack the knowledge. Then there's the other that know. That existence has always been here. There was no creator. If you say there's a creator, then who created the creator? Then who created that creator? So that's another challenge. You're going to go, it's called the infinite regress. If it's mandatory for something to create something, then who created the creator? So you're going to go in a loop. So they say, no, existence has always been here. Next step is 100% free will, and then essence. Now that brings humans our level way higher, right? We say, no, it's stupid to say that something came out of nothing. I can't even imagine what nothingness is. There was always existence. Zartosht just says there is existence. We have 100% free will, which he does, and we will set and establish our own essence. This is the notion that the school of existentialism came out with, which I think it actually exists in the Gatha. I don't think it's original. So it depends which way you want to go. Now up here, taking step one, that since the Catholic Church and the popes believe, the existentialists, they say, look, if there's God, then God had the essence, then existence. That means humans don't have free will. that's another challenge that is going to attack human free will. So the existentialism says, which I think that's what Zoroaster, some philosophers actually believe Zertusht was the first existentialist. He says, no, Zertusht says Ahura has always been here. There always been existence. And that there's 100% free will because God and its essence will interfere with our free will. How could there be a God with its own essence and I have no essence of my own? I'm dictated by that being's essence and I play no role here. I'm not free, therefore I'm not responsible for my actions and I'm not praiseworthy or blameworthy. So this is another way out, and I like this better, but most Zoroastrians disagree. They have the creation, even two of my gurus. So I asked Dr. Professor Irani specifically, is Ahura Mazda the creator? In my interview, he says, yes, he had an idea of Asha, then he made the tangible world, the physical world. So that's that story of intelligent design or a creator. The existentialism idea of existence always being here, that takes those two claims out. So, and decide for yourself, see what's more satisfying, and we ultimately don't know. Yes, Firdaus John.
Just to further explain the point, in one of our interfaith meetings with people of many, many different faiths, many years ago, the speaker was talking about Christian guy, talking about creation. And of course, the Christian view is it is kind of, and God said, let there be light, and there was light. So it's spontaneous creation. Whereas the more modern, otherwise way of thinking is that creation came about with evolution, which is kind of more scientific, if you want to see it that way, which is where I'm trying to say, don't mix science with nature and with religion. You will only tangle up the mess. Just keep it pure and simple. So each person was asked in that group as to what, in response to what the speaker said, is what does your religion say about creation, etc., etc. And the alphabetical order means that Zarthustis are always last with the Z. So at the end, they asked me, what does your religion teach about creation? And I told them, look, my religion does not give me one method of creation. You are saying, some of you, that it is by evolution. Some of you are saying it is by spontaneous creation. Some of you may even, we don't know, we don't care. But I have a simple question. If you all believe that God is an infinite intellectual being or force, how can you and I as finite mortals limit his amazing power by saying he has only two methods of creation? You and I don't know. Our Mazda may have thousands of methods of creation. We have not fathomed it yet. So in the meantime, let's accept for what it is and focus on where we need to be from now as to make the world a better place.
Yeah, again, that's right. We can just say we're not interested, right? I'm interested what I have now. It's like going into the laboratory. What elements do I have now and what can I do with them to move forward? I'm not interested. But for some faiths, when it comes to, you see in the Abrahamic faiths, there is this notion of creator that has spoken to their prophets, this other being outside of us that communicates. You know, in the Abrahamic religions, they have 120,000 prophets, and they keep coming and they keep bringing new messages, and they claim this is revelation from this original creator that created this world and the original designer. Again, for us, I think what's important, we have existence and we have this thing called wisdom. I don't think what Zertusht is saying has any much similarity to that type of belief. Because Christianity, the Catholic Church has accepted evolution, and they claim this does not still negate this argument. It just says the way God has worked, he still created things, and the evolution, it's the God's own design as to how things come about, one thing out of another. But that idea, they still save that position. The Catholic Church today, they've accepted evolution, but they still say, hey, it's an intelligent design. And you know, another important factor is, which we'll cover, then in Christianity, they claim that this is very famous argument called the problem of evil. They say the Christian God is all good, all knowing, and all powerful. And that's another definition as to what are the attributes of our God. And if you go down this path, there is an argument called the problem of evil. I will cover that too in our lectures here, that because evil exists, there cannot be an all-powerful, all-benevolent, all-knowing God. So Dr. Jafari and Professor Irani never gave those attributes to Ahura Mazda. They said Ahura Mazda is all good. By definition, someone wise has to be good. He's the most knowing, not all-knowing, because it's still evolving, and they leave it at that. And so the problem of evil, Zoroastrians could have an answer to that, because we're going to claim, hey, Ahura Mazda is not the Christian God of the triple O, omnipotent, omnibenevolent, and omniscience. He is omnibenevolent. He is all good. It is all good. It's the most knowing, not all knowing. And that's how you get out of that challenge of the problem of evil, which we can cover down the road. So that's another issue when we come to defining our God.
Thank you, Shahrooz Jan. If there are no other questions, usually the classes are every first Sunday of the month. So August 1st, but please look for the California Zoroastrian newsletter. If there's any changes, it will be indicated there. We look forward to the next session, Shahrooz. Thank you, and thank you all for joining.
You're welcome. And the reason, just to add, this month, we skipped the first Sunday of the month because it was 4th of July, and California Zoroastrian Center, in observance of 4th of July, they were closed, so we didn't have access to their Zoom and programs. So starting next month again, like Banu Artemis said, it's going to be first Sunday of each month at 2 o'clock. Same Zoom link. If you keep it and you don't see flyers, whatever, if you come on August 1st, Sunday at 2, you'll see us here. And we'll continue the songs, and we'll inject some of these philosophical notions, because we're all seekers of wisdom. We can kind of learn a little bit more to clear up our thoughts. It's all going to be positive. Thanks for everyone for joining today. It was nice seeing all of you. I wish you all a beautiful Sunday, and I hope to see you guys next time. Be well and God bless.